Hey all, welcome to Homeschool and welcome back to Class 11 Chemistry series. We are with the third chapter, Classification of Elements and their Periodic Properties. See, this is our last session on a chapter. We have covered all the concept in a detailed way in my previous videos. The last video was about electronegativity. Do watch the video and do watch all the videos. Definitely you will have very good clarity on all the concepts, because clarity on concepts is very important to crack any competitive examinations. Once you have clarity on a concept, you have to practice more and more questions. You have to work on with previous years question papers, so that you will get to know how perfect you are and how much clarity you have on a concept. So concept clarity is must and should for each and every one who are going to write the competitive examinations. Fine. And coming to today's topic, I am with the last topic of the chapter, that is anomalous behavior of second period element, diagonal relationship and periodic trends in chemical reactivity. Coming to first topic, it's very much important to understand, guys. So just think of, what do you mean by the word anomalous? Anomality, abnormality. So what is the meaning of this word? It means that different. Anomaly means what? Different. Okay. So we are trying to understand different properties of second period elements. So second period elements are always very much different than rest of the elements that come in a same group. I mean to say, second period elements I am listing: lithium, which comes in a first group, beryllium that comes in a second group, right? And boron, which comes in 13th, carbon that comes in 14th group, nitrogen which comes in 15th group, oxygen 16th group, fluorine 17th group, right? Okay. And coming to group number 3 to group number 12, they are D block elements, and you don't find any D block element in second period, right? Okay. So concentrate these elements. So usually lithium is very much different than sodium, potassium, rubidium and cesium. Beryllium is very much different than rest of the elements, that is magnesium, calcium, strontium and barium. Boron is very much different than aluminium, gallium, indium, thallium. Carbon is very much different than silicon, germanium, whatever the elements. Okay, say this is what, all the first elements in a particular group show some different characters compared to other elements in a group. We all very well know that the elements which come in a same group will have similar properties. They have some properties similar, so they are placed in a same group. Why the similarity? It is because they have similar outermost electronic configuration. Lithium's electronic configuration 2s1. I'm talking about outermost, last electronic configuration. Sodium's 3s1. Potassium's 4s1. So similar electronic configuration is there. Same number of valence electrons are there. Same valency is there, right? So they behave in a similar way. But I am telling you that the first placed elements in every group is much different. It behaves differently than rest of the elements which are there in a particular group. So why? This is what we are going to understand. Okay. So first let us understand what are the different properties these guys will show. Okay. So why they are different? Why they are different is because the first reason is they are small in size. Okay, so all the first placed elements are very small in size compared to the next elements. There is a large size difference between lithium and sodium usually. Say for example, if lithium's atomic radii is 140 picometer, sodium's atomic radii is 155 picometer. But potassium is 156, I can say 159 picometer, and rubidium is 165 picometer. You see the difference? 140 for lithium, 155 for sodium. There is a large difference. Around 15 picometers difference is there between first and second. Whereas second and third you observe 155, 159, only 4. Again third and fourth you observe little, right? These are not actual numbers. Just to get a clarity, I gave this approximate numbers. This is my assumption, that's it. Okay, but definitely there is a large size difference between first and second element in every group. So they are very much small in size. Okay, so that is the reason they behave quite differently than rest of the elements present in a group. And the second reason is, since size is very small compared to other elements in a group, they have very much high ionization enthalpy. High ionization enthalpy, right? So smaller the size, it is very difficult to remove that outermost electron. So ionization enthalpy is very much high, right? Okay, and the third reason is they have high electronegativity value. So they are highly electronegative. So compared to other elements in a group, the first elements are always more electronegative. It is all because they are very much small in size, right? And the fourth one, which is very, very important, is their covalency. Covalency is limited to 4. So what do you mean by covalency is limited to 4? You see guys, if you write their electronic configuration, just one common thing you can observe is, say lithium's 1s2, 2s1, beryllium 1s2, 2s2, boron 1s2, 2p1, sorry 2s2, 2p1, right? I'm writing last electronic configuration. Here 2s2, 2p2, here 2s2, 2p3, here 2s2, 2p4, 2s2, 2p5, right? So in every case, second shell is last shell. Second shell is last shell, isn't it? So in our second cell, we have only 2 orbitals. 2 types of orbitals are there. One is s orbital and other one is p orbital. Again there are 3 p orbitals, isn't it? Px, py and pz, and there is only one s orbital. So all together how many orbitals are there in second shell? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are only 4 orbitals are available for bonding. Usually chemical bonds are formed by overlapping of valence orbitals. How many ever valence orbitals are there, that many possible bonds can be formed. Okay, so if they participate in chemical bond, maximum they can form 4 bonds only, because 4 valence orbitals are only available. 4 valence orbitals are available for bonding, right? So maximum you can expect only 4 bonds being formed around these elements. Okay, they cannot make more than 4 bonds. There are many elements who has 5 bonds around it. Say for example PCl5. Whereas phosphorus, if you take, it has 5 bonds with Cl, right? So this is how there are 5 bonds around phosphorus. Whereas if you take a carbon, it can maximum have only 4 bonds, right? So we say valency of carbon is 4. It can only form 4 bonds. Like that. Why it can only form 4 bond? It because it has only 4 valence orbitals. Okay. So in all these elements, second shell is last. In second shell, all together 2 types of orbitals. That means one s orbital and p orbital. Again, p orbitals are 3. So 3 plus 1, 4 valence orbitals are available for bonding. So maximum of 4 bonds can be formed around them. Okay, so that is what the meaning of the word covalency is limited to 4. Covalency is limited to 4. Okay, so these are the 4 reasons why they are different from other elements which are there in a group. So this is really very important. So what are the reasons why they are different from other elements? It's because of small in size. Next one, high ionization enthalpy. Third reason is highly electronegative. And fourth one, very important one, their covalency is limited to 4. That means you have only 4 valence orbitals available for bonding. You don't have d orbitals in them. Okay, is that clear? So this is why they are different. Clear? Fine. And now we will study few examples like where and how actually they behaved differently. So suppose I'll take lithium, right? So what are the different characters of lithium compared to other elements? So that you will get an idea like, oh, in these instances they are different, right? So let's see few examples like why they are different we discussed, and where exactly, in which properties they are getting different from others. So that one we will look into it. See guys, if you take up first group elements, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium. Okay, so just now I discussed the first element is always different. Okay, and we normally say alkali metals are soft metals, right? We studied this in our early classes also. They are actually soft metals. You can even cut with a knife, right? Usually metals are hard, but these alkali metals are soft and they can be cut with a knife. Whereas you know, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, so all these are soft. Who are soft? Sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium. Okay, but not lithium. Okay, so lithium is actually hard metal, right? So definitely this is a different property that a lithium is showing compared to other elements which are there in its group. So why lithium is different? Because of the 4 reasons. What are the 4 reasons? Small in size, high ionization enthalpy, highly electronegative, and covalency is limited to 4. Because of these reasons, our lithium is hard, whereas other metals in a group are soft metals. So this is one case where lithium is different. Like that, many different properties are shown by lithium. And another one is usually these sodium, potassium, rubidium and cesium, they quickly reacts with air. Okay, so they actually quickly and violently reacts with air and water. Okay, but not lithium. Lithium reacts with air, but it is not violent reaction, and the reaction is quite difficult compared to these guys reacting with air and water. So they quickly, vigorously, spontaneously reacts with air and water, whereas lithium reacts with little difficulty. Okay, so that is another case where lithium is very special and very different. Okay, so and usually we say, you know, when you have NaOH, KOH, RbOH and cesium OH, right? So it is their hydroxides. Usually these guys are basic, we say. Okay, so alkali metal hydroxides are strong basic. That's a general idea that we studied in our lower classes. Whereas lithium hydroxide is not very basic. Okay, so it is not very basic, right? And another thing is, usually these metals make ionic compounds. Ionic compounds. For example, NaCl, KCl, all these are ionic bond, right? So the bonds are formed by transfer of electrons. Whereas compounds of lithium are covalent. Compounds of lithium are covalent, right? So these are some of the different properties shown by lithium. Many properties are different actually. I am showing you only few, right? So saying that lithium is very much different. So why different? It's because of the four reasons that I mentioned previously. Okay, so this is all about anomalous properties of second period elements. So not only in the first group lithium is different, in the second group beryllium is different, in the 13th group boron is different. So every first element in a group is different, right? It's because of the four reasons. Clear? And now let me talk about the second topic of today's class, diagonal relationship. Diagonal relationship. So what do you mean by diagonal relationships? Very, very important. Try to understand. Let me mention second period elements here. Lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon. Third period element, exactly below lithium you have sodium, below beryllium you have magnesium, below boron you have aluminium, and here silicon. Okay, so actually to lithium, which element is placed diagonally? Definitely magnesium. Okay, to beryllium, which element is diagonal? Aluminium. To boron, which element is diagonal? Silicon. Okay, so usually lithium and beryllium are very much similar. They are similar. They show similar chemical and physical properties. Similarly, beryllium and aluminium are similar. Boron and silicon are similar. So only these three pairs. And again, you don't find a similarity between carbon and phosphorus. Okay, see, after carbon comes nitrogen. Below nitrogen is a phosphorus. There is no similarity between carbon and phosphorus. No. You find similarity only between lithium magnesium, beryllium aluminium, boron silicon. Do they come in a same group to show similarities? No. Beryllium is coming in a second group, but it is showing similarity with the first group element, that is who? Lithium. Right? So this is what we call diagonal relationship. Showing similarities, okay, is between the elements, which belong to two different groups, is what we call diagonal relationship. Similarity with the element that is diagonally present. Similarity with the element that is diagonally located in a periodic table is called diagonal relationship. Okay, so you must understand which pairs are diagonally related. They are lithium magnesium, beryllium aluminium, boron silicon. For example, I told you lithium, lithium is a hard metal, I told. Similarly, magnesium is also quite hard. Okay, I said lithium doesn't easily react with air and water. So magnesium also does not easily react with air. Okay, and I said lithium compounds are covalent in nature. Magnesium compounds are also quite covalent in nature. Right? So somehow the characters of lithium and magnesium will match with each other. So this is what we mean by diagonal relationship. And now, okay, they are similar, but why? Why they are similar? Why lithium and magnesium is similar? Because the reason for diagonal relationship is they match in atomic size. Atomic size. Right? So usually from top to bottom size decreases, right? From top to bottom size increases, left to right size decrease. Because of this opposite trend, you see magnesium is coming in the second period, right? That means compared to beryllium, magnesium is quite big enough and lithium is big enough. Somehow sizes will match between the second period and third period elements. I mean, the third period element must come in the next group, right? It's because size decreases from left to right, size increases from top to bottom. Size is varying opposite. This way size is decreasing, this way size is increasing. Maybe because of this opposite trend, these guys, their atomic sizes are somehow matching. Okay, lithium's atomic size is exactly similar. I mean, approximately, almost it is similar to magnesium's atomic size. That's why, since size is similar, some of the properties are getting matched between them. That's why they are showing diagonal relationship. Okay, so similarly, beryllium's atomic size is similar to aluminium's atomic size, right? It's mainly because the atomic size, atomic radius is matching. Approximately, they show the same numbers, right? So that is the reason for diagonal relationship. So hope you are clear with diagonal relationship. Now I will move on with periodic trends in chemical reactivity. See, let's understand what do you mean by periodic trends in chemical reactivity. See, we have seen trends in properties like atomic radii, ionization enthalpy, electronegativity, valency, etc. Right? Trend in the sense what? From left to right, what happens? Top to bottom, what will happen? Like that, let's discuss about chemical reactivity in periodic table. Right? So we all very well know that the elements placed in the same group are similar. Okay, so why they are similar is due to same outermost electronic configuration. So this is a very basic point that we understand, right? For example, first group, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, all are quite similar. It's due to outermost electronic configuration. Right? Okay. Say now this is our second group, right? So somewhere here comes 13th group to 18th group, right? Okay. We studied group wise valency in the previous video, right? So the valency of first group was +1, valency of second group was +2, and here if I go from 15th group, valency was -3, -2, -1, like that, right? See, you see the left side elements. Let me write here. Left side elements are always metallic in nature. So they are metallic. In other words, I can call them as electropositive. Left side elements are electropositive. So what do you mean by electropositive or metallic? It means that they have ability to lose electrons during chemical reaction. Because if they lose one electron or two electrons, they become stable. They will achieve that 8 electronic configuration. Right? So if something has 8 electrons in the last shell, it is considered as stable. So to achieve that 8 electronic configuration, they either lose 1 electron in case of first group and they lose 2 electrons in case of second group. Right? So they lose electron. So that tendency of losing electrons is called metallic character or electropositive character. Right? Okay. And coming to rightmost side of an element, you see these elements, especially 15th group, 16th group and 17th group. Okay, so they have tendency to gain electrons. Because if they gain electron, they get that stable electronic configuration. So, tendency of gaining electrons is called non-metallic property. non-metallic property. Okay, is that clear? So rightmost elements are normally considered as non-metals. They are normally considered as non-metals. Okay, and remember the so-called metals, you know, compounds of metals are always basic in nature. This is very, very important point. Compounds of metals are basic in nature. Okay, for example, sodium is there. Sodium oxide, basic. Sodium hydroxide, basic. Right? Magnesium chloride, basic. Magnesium hydroxide, basic. Magnesium oxide, basic. Right? So any compound which includes a metal, it is considered as base or basic in nature. Similarly, compounds of non-metals are acidic in nature. Compounds of non-metals are acidic. So this is really very important. For example, nitrogen dioxide, NO2 acidic, SO2 acidic, CO2 acidic. Okay, so any compound with non-metal is always acidic in nature. So this is really a very, very important point. Okay, so usually, so why these guys are gaining electron, why they are called as non-metallic, is because the size of an atom is smaller, right? So always remember guys, non-metallic nature is inversely proportional to atomic radii. Whereas metallic nature, so this point is very, very important, metallic nature is directly proportional to atomic radii. Okay, so bigger the atom, it behaves as metal. Smaller the atom, it behaves as non-metal. Okay, fine. So hope the concept is clear for you. So now try to understand metallic nature, or in other words I can call it as basic nature, right? Say when element is single, I'll call it as metal, but the same element when it is present in the form of a compound, I will call this as basic. Okay, so when I talk about the compound of metal, I will say that it is basic. When I talk about single elements, I will say that it is metal. Okay, for compound we say basic nature or acidic nature, but for elements we say metal or non-metal. But one thing is very clear, metallic means basic nature, non-metallic means acidic nature, because compounds of metals are called bases, compounds of non-metals are acidic. Okay, see, metallic nature or basic nature decreases, always decreases from left to right. Okay, and increases from top to bottom. Do you agree this? Right? Say it is directly proportional to atomic radii. From left to right, atomic radius decreases. So from left to right, the basic nature decreases. From top to bottom, atomic radius increases. So from top to bottom, our metallic nature increases. This point is very, very important. Okay, and similarly, non-metallic nature, okay, or acidic nature, I can say. If I'm talking about a compound, acidic nature. If I'm talking about an element, non-metallic nature. Acidic nature, what happens? Increases. It increases from left to right and decreases from top to bottom. Okay, so these points, whichever I wrote on a board, is really very, very important. Note down every point, or just take a screenshot out of it, because you can answer many questions from this particular concept. Just remember, leftmost side of elements are metals, and that metallic character is directly proportional to atomic radii. From top to bottom, when you go, metallic character increases. I mean to say, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium. Who is most metallic? Definitely cesium, because atomic size is more. Tendency to lose electron is more. Okay, and not only that, metals lose electron. That means losing electron is called oxidation, right? So metals undergo oxidation. The one which is undergoing oxidation is called as reducing agents. Okay, so metals act as reducing agents, right? So the leftmost side elements will act as reducing agent, whereas non-metals, okay, non-metals gain electrons. Gain of electrons is called reduction. Okay, so oxidation and reduction have different meanings. In terms of electrons, if I have to say, loss of electrons is called oxidation, gain of electrons is called reduction. This you will also study in redox reactions chapter. Okay, so the one which is undergoing reduction is also called as oxidizing agent. This is also called as oxidizing agent. Okay, so this is also very, very important. We say sodium is reducing agent because it's a metal, it will undergo oxidation, so it will be called as reducing agent. Whereas Cl is oxidizing agent, we say. Okay, usually fluorine is the best oxidizing agent than anything, because fluorine has a maximum tendency to gain electrons, right? Fluorine can undergo reduction very nicely, so it will act as the best oxidizing agent, right? So non-metals are oxidizing in property and metals are reducing in property. Okay, so this is about the concept that you need to know. Now let us work with few questions relating to this concept. Observe this question number 1, guys. So imagine you have rubidium oxide, cesium oxide, lithium oxide, sodium oxide and potassium oxide. And my question is, arrange them in increasing order of basic nature, right? So all these are compounds of metals, right? You see, lithium, rubidium, cesium, sodium, potassium, everything will come in same group, isn't it? So in a same group, as you go from top to bottom, our metallic character increases and compounds of these guys are basic. So basic nature also increases. So among them, can you all tell me which compound is more basic? Who is more metallic? Definitely cesium. Which elements compounds are more basic? Definitely compounds of cesium. So here cesium oxide is more basic. Arrange in increasing order. That means less basic to more basic. Who is less basic? Definitely lithium oxide. Okay, later comes sodium oxide, and later is potassium oxide and rubidium oxide, and most basic is cesium oxide. Okay, so this is how you have to decide your answer, right? So top to bottom in a group, basic nature increases. Left to right in a period, basic nature decreases, acidic nature increases. Observe question number 2. You have, for example, let me take sodium oxide, aluminium oxide, okay, magnesium oxide, Cl2O7 and SO2. Okay, so my question is, which of the oxide is more acidic? Then how do you decide? See, sodium, aluminium, magnesium, chlorine, sulfur, all of them will come in a same period. Actually, they belong to third period, right? Sodium, magnesium, 13th group, aluminium will come. Then sulfur comes in 16th group, and at the end, chlorine comes in 17th group. This is how their position are there in periodic table. Okay, so from left to right, our acidic nature increases. We know this. So definitely compounds of chlorine are more acidic in nature. So who is more acidic? Definitely Cl2O7 is more acidic. Who is more basic? Definitely sodium oxide, because it's a first group element. Group 1 most basic, group 2 less basic. So basic nature decreases, instead acidic nature keeps on increases. Okay, fine. And there is one more concept that you need to understand. I told you compounds of metals are more basic, compounds of non-metals are acidic. Okay, but there are some elements in the periodic table which we call them as metalloids. For example, aluminium is a metalloid. Okay, and then D block elements. I mean the elements which come in 3rd to 12th group, they are called as metalloids. Okay, so usually compounds of metalloids are amphoteric in nature. So what do you mean by the word amphoteric? Amphoteric means neither acidic nor basic. Neither acidic nor basic. Okay, I told you compounds of metals are bases, compounds of non-metals are acidic. But there are some elements which are neither metals nor non-metals. I mean, they have both characters of metals and non-metals. So those compounds of compounds of those elements are always amphoteric in nature. Okay, for example, aluminium oxide is amphoteric, zinc oxide is amphoteric. Okay, so you will learn all of them in a detailed way when you study group wise chemistry. Okay, in our inorganic chemistry, we study S block elements, P block elements, D block elements and F block elements. There we will study chemistry of first group elements, chemistry of second group elements, 13th group elements, etc. So group wise chemistry, when you study, you will come to know in a group which are metals, which are non-metals and which are metalloids. Okay, so there you will understand like what are the other examples you can give for amphoteric oxides or amphoteric compounds. As of now, remember aluminium oxide and zinc oxide are the best examples for amphoteric oxide, because aluminium and zinc are metalloid. They are neither metals nor non-metals. Okay, so this completes our chapter periodic classification of elements. I mean entire basic aspects of periodic table. Fine. So hope you have complete clarity on all the concepts of this chapter. This will definitely help you to crack your competitive examinations, to answer the competitive questions with confidence. And many are asking me to solve the competitive questions. Actually, the questions which I am solving in between are competitive questions itself. Okay, so once all the chapters are over, I will come up with competitive question series. Okay, where I will discuss previous year competitive questions, how to answer them, various tricks that you can use to answer them, everything, right? But now I am focusing on giving concept clarity on all the chapters. Let this gets over, we will come up with NEET series, JEE series, CET series and everything. Okay, fine. And in chemistry series, the next chapter is chemical bonding. Many are asking me to start GOC, that means General Organic Chemistry. Whereas to understand organic chemistry, you need to understand certain aspects of, few aspects of chemical bonding. I normally call chemical bonding is the heart of chemistry, where you will learn many basic things to understand other chapters of chemistry. So let's learn chemical bonding, and then I will switch over to your favorite and your most difficult chapter, general organic chemistry. Okay, so if you have liked the videos, please post your opinion in the comments, because that's what keeps us get motivated and inspired to do many things for you all. So thank you so much. Meet you all with the next chapter with a beautiful topic, chemical bonding. Thank you so much.